Dungeons & Dragons 2024 is out, and depending upon who you ask, it's either a breath of fresh air, or the death of the game as we know it. Now, I know what you're all thinking. Oh boy, here comes another shell-out YouTuber here to defend Wizards of the Coast, but no, this video is not about the company, it's about the game. So here's the deal. I think D&D 2024 is actually pretty good. Yeah, I said it. And over the next couple of minutes, I'm going to walk you through why using examples, comparisons, and logical reasoning, which admittedly is something rarely found in online discourse. My goal isn't to change your mind, it's to challenge it. Because if you stop looking at this game through the lens of company drama or nostalgia goggles, you might realize that 2024 isn't trying to replace 5th edition, it's trying to improve it. And honestly, that might be the best thing this game has done in a decade. Alright, so let's start off with the gelatinous cube in the room, public opinion. If you've been online at all consuming any sort of D&D content, you've likely noticed something strange. Some people are cautiously optimistic, with DMs in particular seeming to just vibe with the changes. But hop over to YouTube or TikTok and it is an absolute war zone. The soul of the game is gone! 5.5e is a betrayal! I'd rather eat my dice than play this stupid game! The divide is wild, but that's not too surprising because the truth is people aren't judging the system, they're judging the company. Wizards of the Coast has had, let's just say, a bumpy ride the past few years. Between the OGL controversy, monetization fears, and just general corporate shadiness, the trust isn't exactly flowing. And yes, that stuff does matter, but if we're going to talk about 2024 D&D, we've got to separate the art from the artist. Or in this case, the rules from the suits. Because when you actually sit down and look at the game, you'll realize it's not the same as the headlines would want you to believe. So let's start off with the #1 quality of life buff in D&D 2024, balance. Now I know balance isn't exactly an exciting word in tabletop gaming, but you know what is exciting? Picking a class and not regretting it by level 7. Paladins could smite the soul out of anything that they touch, while monks were over here like, hey guys, I punched it. Twice. That changed with Smite now being a bonus action spell rather than just a simple reaction to a critical hit. Now you actually have to choose when to unleash your divine justice, which is admittedly less fun, but much more balanced, which is a necessary change. As for the monk, they finally got the glow up they deserved. Martial arts dice scales better, their flurry of blows was improved, and the whole key system overall was just made smoother. But classes weren't alone in these improvements, there were also a bunch of spells that got some love as well. For example, True Strike, which was a meme of 2014, has now been made into an actual usable spell. Witch Bolt no longer baits new players, and now hits harder and is a viable option. Color Spray and Sleep now scale in a way that makes sense, so they don't fall off of a cliff once you pass level 3. And even Counterspell got adjusted to make sure spellcasters got a chance to cast a spell. Now, game balance is not perfect, but it is significantly better. Every class, subclass, and spell got a checkup and a little bit of TLC that it needed to make it a viable option in 2024. And while you might have mixed feelings on that, you can't argue that game balance is just good game design. So we've talked about player power and balance, but what about the enemies? Because let's be honest, in 2014, a lot of the creatures felt like cardboard cutouts with safety scissors. But in 2024, monsters came to play. Take the humble ghoul, for example. In 2014, it had a single attack, a +2 to hit, and dealt 2d6 +2 damage. It could paralyze you, sure, but most of the time it just missed and then fell over. But now, the ghoul in 2024 has multi-attack with a +4 to hit. Same damage per swing, but now it can do it twice with a higher chance of hitting both. Monsters in general are also getting built-in effects without relying on saving throws. For example, the Aboleth now auto-grapples on a hit, and the Earth Elemental now knocks you prone. It may seem negligible, but these effects just occurring make monsters feel unique and dangerous without slowing the game down with 10 saves per round. But my favorite example of this has got to be the Lich. In 2014, the Lich had 135 hit points and could cast one spell or one touch attack per turn. Now, this thing has 315 total HP with a multi-attack that allows it to make 3 Eldritch Burst attacks in a single round. That is an average of 78 damage without ever expending a spell slot. This means that, in terms of the Lich at least, spellcasting is a bonus threat, not just the only threat. Of course, tougher monsters are only half the battle, because if you were the one running the monsters, you know how much of a hassle 5th edition used to be from behind the screen. In 2024, DMing actually feels manageable? I know, it's a wild concept. Monsters always worked best when you homebrewed them a little for your specific party, but with the new update, they come kind of preloaded in a drag and drop state. You shouldn't really have to tweak their damage output or give them extra actions or secretly buff their AC to make the encounter feel fair or challenging. You can literally open up the monster manual, pick a stat block, and trust it will work out of the box. They also finally fixed one of my biggest DMing pet peeves, spellcaster enemies. Now, I'll be honest, I was initially very upset with the changes they made to spellcaster enemies. Removing full spellcasting and replacing it with a couple of at-will or per-day spells felt like dumbing it down or like we were losing flavor for convenience. But after running a few encounters, I realized that this change doesn't necessarily make monsters weaker, it just makes them faster and more accessible. Stat blocks are smaller, cleaner, and easier to run at the table out of the box. You get ready-to-go spellcasters without having to pre-prepare a combat spell list for the lich you've been wanting to run. This change gives you the same room you've always had for customization, but it allows you the freedom to pull out a ready-made caster from the box should you ever need one. If you're wanting to give your necromancer a full list of death-themed spells, you can. But now you're building from a streamlined base that works out of the box with technically zero assembly required. And that ready-to-go out of the box isn't just for monsters, it applies to the books themselves as well. Even conditions got cleaned up. Grappled, prone, restrained, all of them are standardized with consistent mechanical effects and clear language. All this alongside new terminology like emanation being consistently used across all spells and monster abilities, which makes running combat just so much easier. But perhaps one of the biggest wins in 2024 is something you wouldn't even notice at first, because it's just about how little you notice it. Some things just make sense now. For starters, the daylight spell now creates daylight. And yes, that means it can actually hurt vampires now. I know, what a concept. The daylight spell hurting vampires, crazy. The grapple condition also got a glow up, which was much needed. It used to reduce movement speed to 0, which was fine, but pretty much effectively useless. But now, grappled creatures also suffer disadvantage on attacks, which makes sense and makes it a legitimate battle tactic and not just some sort of placeholder action. Character creation also got cleaned up with origin feats, helping you flesh out your backstory and giving you useful mechanics right from the get-go. Instead of choosing between narrative flavor and mechanical value, you now get both, allowing your background to feel meaningful while maintaining a build that still has a strong identity. And even subclass progression has just been standardized. No more weird spikes where a class gets a power at level 6, another at level 7, and then someone else at level 10 for no reason. Now, all subclass features unlock at consistent levels like 3, 6, 10, and 14. It's easier to balance, easier to plan, and way easier for homebrew designers as well. All these changes might seem small, but they just smooth the game out to make it flow better, so there's less flipping through rulebooks and more actual playing. Now, admittedly, not every change in 2024 was a success. A chunk of their changes were more akin to rolling a 13, where they didn't necessarily fail, but they weren't exactly impressing anyone either. But the thing is that even the imperfect stuff matters because it shows that D&D is trying to evolve. Even systems which aren't the best is a sign of where the game could go, which is a good sign for D&D overall. Take weapon masteries for example, a brand new mechanic that gives different weapons different effects. Suddenly your choice of weapon isn't just what has the highest damage rolls, it's whatever fits your style. Is it perfectly balanced? No, definitely not. It is not balanced at all. But is the idea cool? I think so. Then there's the Bastion system, a base building downtime mechanic that allows players to create strongholds, earn passive benefits, or even defend their fortress from siege between adventures. It's kinda like Animal Crossing meets D&D. Just like weapon masteries, it is not perfectly balanced and it won't work in every campaign, but the framework is definitely there. It's a new way to connect your characters to the world in a meaningful and long-term way, which I think is something that has been sorely missing in the 2014 version of 5th edition. And finally, we can't ignore crafting. Look, we can all agree that crafting sucked in 5th edition, but in 2024, we finally have a structure for creating items, potions, and gear. It's not hyper-detailed, and it still leaves a lot of room to be desired, but it is a starting point. It's finally a foundation for a system that many tables have homebrewed for the past 12 years. These systems might not be perfect, but really they don't have to be, because what they are is promising. So, is D&D 2024 actually good? Yeah, I think so. Some parts still need tuning, and some systems are laying the foundation for future improvements, but the overall system appears to be moving in a good direction. D&D 2024 is more balanced, more intuitive, and just easier to run. It respects your time as a player and as a dungeon master, even if Wizards of the Coast doesn't respect your wallet. You don't have to like every change, but you should at least acknowledge the attempts to move the system forward. Ultimately, 5th edition and 5.24 are different games built on the same foundation, and that's okay. You can pick what works and Frankenstein your favorite parts to what fits your table. So play what you love, let others do the same, and maybe, just maybe, give the new edition a fair shot. You might be surprised how good it actually is. But what do you think? Have you played the 2024 edition yet? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. But that's all I got for today, so thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.